All right, guys, welcome back to the Fightlete Report. And this Saturday, October 17th, it is UFC Fight Night Ortega versus Korean Zombie. Flash Forum on Fight Island in Abu Dhabi. It's broadcasted on ESPN Plus. Make sure to check it out at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's going to be a great night of fights. I really enjoyed the last UFC Fight Night, so I can only imagine this one being another big one. And great fights are on tap. We start, of course, with the main event, Brian Ortega versus Chan Sung Jung. I'm excited for this one because this is supposed to happen in December of last year. Didn't happen for an injury to Brian Ortega. And Ortega, we haven't seen him since December of 2018. So it's been going to be about 2 years since we've seen Brian Ortega in action. I'm excited to see what he does. You know, he's a former number one contender. He took on Max Holloway. It didn't go his way. He lost that fight by doctor stoppage between the 4th and 5th round. So Chan Sung Jung comes into this fight, 2-fight win streak. Two big finishes. In the first round, he knocked out Renato Moicano with an overhand right, ground and pound. Then he took on Frankie Edgar in December of last year. He won that fight in the first round. 3 minutes and 18 seconds is all it took, and it was over. And that was actually in his hometown of Korea. So that was a huge fight for him. It was a huge fight for him to be in his homeland of Busan, Korea. And I felt like, the Korean Zombie beating a former UFC champion. Actually, when guys take time off their careers, usually it's not a thing that's good. But in the case of Korean Zombie, it's helped him. I feel like it really has. It hasn't hurt him. So, when he took off time from 2013 in his big title fight against Jose Aldo, then came back, defeated Dennis Bermudez in 2017, it was great. We didn't see him again until 2018. He took on Yair Rodriguez. He lost by elbow. But since then, 2 big finishes. He finally got more than one fight within a year. Since 2012, you know what I mean? That was like the last time he fought more than once, so 2011. So, this guy has not fought more than one time in a year. And in 2020, this will be his first time fighting. This fight was supposed to happen last December. Brian Ortega pulled out with an injury, and we've seen them linked ever since. There's just something about this fight that's intriguing, just the knockout power of Chan Sung Jung, and then the grappling of Brian Ortega. He is a black belt. He has got so many great submission victories. And they've both defeated Frankie Edgar, right? It was a former champion. I think this is going to be determining. It may determine the number one contender next. I feel like that's a possibility. I also feel like, 145 has got other great matches in store. So we'll see what happens in terms of that. But for Brian Ortega, he's got to come back here. He's got to show that he is relevant in this division and show that the loss against Holloway was just a fluke and that he'll be back. Before that, he had two submission victories before he knocked out Frankie Edgar, defeated guys like Cub Swanson, Renato Moicano, Clay Guida. He is vicious, man. And you know what I like about him is that every time he comes back stronger. Like, he comes back, He might take a round off. He comes back. He goes right for the kill, and he's just one of those fighters who's got a high mental capacity, a high threshold for pain, but just like a high mental capacity for always being aggressive in this fight, always being the aggressor, and I think that's what we're gonna see here. I think that he's gonna go in there and he's gonna beat Chan Sung Jung. This may be a decision. Something tells me that there's going to be a finish, and it might be between the second and the third round. And I'm going with Brian Ortega on this fight. I think he has it. I think the late second, early third round is where we're going to see it, and we're going to see a submission victory. I think that Chan Sung Jung is a great fighter, and I'm not saying he's overhyped at all. He's not. And I think that his victories have to be warranted, but they're against fighters that really aren't relevant in the division anymore in terms of Frankie Edgar and Renato Moicano. And I feel like at this point that this is going to be a fight where we're going to see Brian Ortega come back and make a case for a title shot. Will he get it? We'll see, because Yair Rodriguez is also should be in line for a title shot as well. You know, Yair Rodriguez has been doing a lot to get back into contention, and he's defeated both Korean Zombie and Jeremy Stevens. So, you know, if Chang Sung-jung wins this fight, it doesn't do it as credible to him as it would be for Ortega. I think Ortega is more likely to get a title shot than the Korean Zombie, because Korean Zombie already lost to Yair Rodriguez. Yair is scheduled with a fight with Zabit back in August of this year. It was canceled, so I think those two are still linked, and that might be a number one contendership fight as well. So we'll see how Ortega does, because Ortega could win this fight and slot right nicely to be number one contender, to take on the number one contender for the belt, and that's Alex Volkanovski. And we know that obviously Alex Volkanovski defeated Max Holloway in his last fight, so Volkanovski is waiting to see who his number one contender will be, who he's going to defend the belt against. And, obviously after defeating Holloway a second time, it could be against Zabit Nurmagomedov, it could be against Yair Rodriguez, it could be against Brian Ortega. In the most unlikely scenario, it is the Korean Zombie. Maybe Korean Zombie does something spectacular and Dana White wants him in that slot, and he's going to put him in against Volkanovski, the champion. I don't see that happening. I think it's more likely Ortega or Zabit at this point, because I think Zabit if Zabit has to fight Yair, I think Zabit wins. However, Yair is a tough dude, and we'll just see where it goes from here, you know. But I think Zabit beats Yair, so be either Zabit or Ortega in line at 145 pound for that belt. But how the fight is going to play out, I feel like Ortega is gonna approach it, kind of, relaxed. He's going to find that distance. When he gets in range, he's got to be careful for Korean Zombie. Zombie at close range is dangerous. Zombie has just destroyed people over and over again, like Frankie Edgar, Renato Moicano, Dennis Bermudez. He's got those huge, just flash knockouts. All of a sudden, instant, that is it, and it's over with, like the win against Frankie Edgar and Renato Moicano. And if you guys saw the win against Bermudez, they're so quick. So he's got to stay careful of that. But if he can get this fight to the ground, I feel like he's well-versed in BJJ, and I think he's going to get either a TKO or a submission victory, late second, early third round against the Korean Zombie. But, again, first round he has to be careful, because Zombie can end that fight in any moment with that flash knockout. So I think it's going to be an exciting, intriguing bout. I'm glad they stayed together. They kept this fight intact, and we're finally going to see it next Saturday night. Next up, we have Jessica Andrade and 125-pound division against Caitlin Chukagian. Excited for this one because they both are former number one contenders, and Jessica Andrade is a former champion. This is at 125, and Jessica Andrade, she is a monster. And when we see her fight, she usually brings it. She's on two-loss losing streak. And her last fight was very close against Rose Namajunas. Could have went either way. Rose barely won that fight at UFC 251 last July. And then, of course, she lost to the current champion, Weili Zhang. She lost her title in August of last year. So moving forward, I think Andrade is going to be taking on a woman that has fought in a championship fight before, and Caitlin Chukagian, who was finished by Valentina Shevchenko. I think it's an experienced opponent for her, but I think she has it. I think Jessica Andrade is going to win this fight, either by knockout or submission. She's going to bring the pain. And listen, she is very strong, and her strength is going to be overwhelming for Caitlin Chukagian. I think for Chukagian, she's a fighter that has been in really good fights where she gets that decision going. She's displayed good boxing. She just won her last fight against Antonina Shevchenko impressively. And she used a lot of grappling in that fight. She's defeated Joanne Calderwood. She's defeated Jennifer Maia. I just feel like, this is a fight that's going to show which woman wants it more and which one wants to stay in contention, even though they've come across some tough hurdles. For Jessica Andrade, I think it's going to be a tougher hurdle for her because she's on a 2-fight lose streak. But for Caitlin Chukagian, knowing what hangs in the balance, knowing that she went against the champion once and she was able to, last a couple rounds. Although it didn't go her way, she wants to get back in there and contend for the title. So obviously everyone's here for their reasons. I think Jessica Andrade wins it. I don't think she gets an automatic title shot at 125 with that belt, because there's still other number one contenders as well. There's still top contenders as well, but I think Andrade definitely makes a case for a match with Valentina with the win. And like I said, I think it's going to be a TKO finish. I would say either the first or the second round against Caitlin Chukagian. But we'll see. Chukagian has a chin, and if she is durable, she has lasted against, tough fighters. Obviously she went to the third round with Valentina Shevchenko, in her last fight. Caitlin also took on someone that maybe thought she would have a lot of trouble time with Antonina Shevchenko, right? So she beat the sister of the champion. I think that gives her more confidence to challenge the champion, So we'll see. I think still Antonina and Valentina, even though they train very close together, are two different fighters. I think Valentina is just at a higher level. But maybe she can build upon that win and be like, and call her out and say, hey, I beat your sister, I embarrassed her, now I want that championship. But she has to defeat Jessica Andrade to have the right to call her out, and I don't see that happening. So I am going with Valentina. I'm going with Jessica Andrade by knockout. But yep, also I wanted to talk about 125-pound division. We have Poliana Botelho versus Jillian Robertson. I'm excited for this one. This is on the undercard. But listen, when we look at the 125-pound women's division, which we're just talking about, we see a lot of great fighters. And Jillian Robertson, 2-fight win streak, right? So she wants to extend her win streak to a 2-fight win streak. She is looking to get that after beating Courtney Casey in her last fight. I felt like she did very well against a woman that may pick her to lose against. So I think that when we see this fight happen, we're going to see, two of the best. Obviously, Poliana Botelho has been there and been grinding it out. She's 8-2 now. I think her last loss was to Cynthia Calvillo, but she lost in the first round by rear naked choke, and that was back in 2018. Her last fight, she defeated Lauren Mueller by unanimous decision. Did Poliana Botelho, and looking to build upon that. For Jillian Robertson, she was facing a couple of tough losses. One was to, of course, Macy Barber. And now she's back in where she needs to be. Obviously 8-4. I think that she gets this win against Poliana Botelho. It's going to be tough. And if I had to choose how she gets the win, I think it's a submission. The Savage, she loves to get in there and grind her opponent out. But in one of her last victories, right, she got a big knockout win. So, we'll see what happens. She's game either way. And, her training during this pandemic, and having Den Thomas, who was a great coach at the American Top Team, in her corner for this one, I think she'll be ready to go. And I'm giving her the submission victory, either the second or the third round in a 3-round fight. And it's going to be one of those fights where we'll be like, wow, we cannot believe what we're seeing. And not only that, but we can't believe exactly, why these fighters are doing this. Why are they going out there and they're competing during this time. I think that speaks volumes. Just going out there and being there for us, and, during this time where we don't have sports like we used to. We don't have, the fans there. I appreciate the fighters, going out there and putting it all on the line, but also, risking their health, a little bit of risk of health, to be out there in the cage. So, we've had Jillian on the show before, very big fan of hers, and I think she wins this fight. So that's it for this week's edition of Fightlete Podcast. Everybody check out fightlete.com. And before we do go, check out LFA 92, which is going to be happening this Friday night on UFC Fight Pass. And we have interviews with Aaron Jeffrey and Sam Hughes. Hopefully will be on the Fight Lead Report podcast. Aaron Jeffrey, of course, will be in the main event, and Sam Hughes on the undercard. After her last LFA title fight, she had lost to Vanessa Demopoulos in a tough fight. So we're looking forward to talking to her. Also, check out LFA 92 interview with Chicago area bantamweight Askar, who was on my show, and we got to talk about his big win over Kevin Wirth by unanimous decision, and talk about where he's ready to go after this one. You know, he's a former HFC bantamweight champion, lost that fight, the title in his last fight to Syed Yokub. Talked about possibly rematch with Syed, gave his thoughts on his fight and his performance and training. So it was great to catch up with Askar. So check that out on the Fightlete YouTube channel as well.
Definitely didn't have a good taste in my mouth the last couple months with that last fight. So to be able to get that taste out of my mouth and have almost end the year off on a good note, I'm happy. I'm back on track where I need to be, and I'm just happy I got to be in there and get that experience.
And of course, LFA 93. Make sure to check that out. It comes to you Friday night on UFC Fight Pass. Going to be an exciting night of fights as Aaron Jeffrey takes on Andrei Petroski in the main event. Check it out at 8 p.m. Central Time. Sam Hughes in the co-main event takes on Danielle Hindley as well. And Carlos Hernandez, who trains in Cicero, will be taking on Trevor Wells, 125 pounds, from Cicero, Illinois. Carlos Hernandez, who is the HFC flyweight champion. So make sure to check all that out as well. A lot of local fighters gain the opportunity to fight during this time, even though they cannot fight under the local crowds. We have got the chance to see them perform live, and it's exciting as well. So make sure to stay tuned to the Fightlete Report, Fightlete.com. We're covering the local fights as well as UFC and Bellator. Enjoy the fights this week. I'm your host, Sean Lennon.